Hey guys, Kiwi here. Today I'll be breaking down and reviewing the most recent episode of The Walking Dead, episode 706, Swear. So this episode has been advertised for quite a while as the Tara and Heath episode. That being said, spoilers for anything in season 7 episode 6 if you haven't already seen it. But let's jump right into it. So this week starts out with last week's Talking Dead sneak peek that I covered in my predictions video. It essentially consists of two lone girls finding Tara on the beach, completely unconscious. We later learn that the older girl's name is Sydney while the younger one is Rachel. Rachel has most likely been training on how to kill properly to defend herself, considering her excitement over finding a walker on the beach and taking it out. She runs over to Tara thinking that she's a walker as well, and almost takes her out too. Jesus, but she actually gets stopped by Sydney, who realizes that she's still alive. Rachel almost kills Tara anyways. What the heck, man? Regardless of knowing that she's alive. Sydney stops her, saying that they don't need to do it as long as Tara doesn't find out who they are. These two actually foreshadow their backstory throughout the entire conversation. First, they're giving small hints about how they would kill anyone they come across. Then they talk about how they have a larger group, along with a few other things that might make you raise your eyebrow. So after Sydney's done hassling Rachel about not snitching, she dragged Tara onto the beach away from the water, helping her but eventually leaving her alone. We jump back to Heath and Tara's conversation that was shown in the Nothing Is Left trailer last week on AMC's YouTube channel. If you want a more detailed analysis on this particular conversation, be sure to check out my breakdowns for the sneak peeks of this episode. A fun little Easter egg that I'd like to point out is the line that Tara says to Heath. This is the same quote that Glenn actually once told her way back in episode 502, Strangers.
Rule number 1 of scavenging. There's nothing left in this world that isn't hidden. We just have to find it.
I really liked Heath in this episode, or what little we saw of him, that is. I love the way that they cut off the convo for the trailer so that when we watched the full episode, we got to listen to the full conversation continue as Tara actually calls out everything Heath is saying, calling it complete bullshit. This bullshit refers to Heath's speech about how when it comes down to it, people are always in it for themselves. Even though survivors act like they're in a group as if they're in a team, if it's life and death and you need to get out of there, you will, because that's what it takes to survive nowadays. Although I could understand needing to possibly, leave someone who's already too far gone, like I believe there was one scene way back in season 4 where Carl and Rick saw someone who is already getting completely mauled by walkers. It was a completely nameless person. It's some sort of situation like that possibly makes sense as they're already gonna die and you don't want to draw the zombies towards yourself, but I obviously wouldn't agree with purposely leaving someone for dead, like what Nicholas did, for example. This show can prove that people definitely survive better in groups, and you need someone watching your back to ensure safety and security. Someone like Glenn would never leave anyone behind. He didn't leave Tara behind back in that tunnel in season 4, and he didn't even leave behind a coward like Nicholas. We once again see this woman, Sydney, who's just checking on Tara at the beach. She doesn't seem to want to harm her like Rachel did. She just leaves her fish and water and a stick as a weapon. Tara seemed to have been awake the whole time as she instantly sits up and starts chugging that water the first chance she gets. Tara stays hidden from her, checking on the supplies that were left by her, and eventually starts following her. Tara gets led into the woods and eventually comes across a community blended into the forest that completely consists of women. Tara observes the community for a moment but eventually gets caught and shot at. We see her escape and get the upper hand on one of them, knocking her down and taking her shotgun from her. The woman tells Tara to do it, but she instead knocks her out and continues running away. Good on her for not blowing the brains out of that random girl, as she instantly gets caught by Rachel anyways. Sydney intervenes, stopping Rachel from shooting Tara since she is apparently supposed to. They all get completely surrounded as we see some comical lines from Tara as she is just horribly overwhelmed by all of these guns pointed in her face.
Hi. I didn't mean to. Look, I'm cool. I'm not here to hurt anyone.
Thank God one of them is sticking their neck out for Tara. Everyone seems to be so strict in their killing newcomers on sight that even the little girls believe that it's the only way, and even insists on it. This community is known as the Oceanside from the comics, and actually doesn't normally appear until way later in the story. Avoiding any spoilers, we still don't know too much about the Oceanside from the comics at all, so this was definitely an interesting development, having Tara find them so early like this. The way Tara is isolated and then found by this group mirrors last season how Daryl was found by Dwight and Sherry while they were on the run. If you remember back to the season 7 and 6 trailers, they both had these teaser clips at the end of them, where in season 6 it featured Daryl being captured, and in season 7 it featured Heath and mainly Tara on the run. Anyways, speaking of Heath and Tara, we then flash back to them looting a bridge that has been blocked off and abandoned. Apparently Scott M. Gimple found this bridge while filming episode 604 last year, the Morgan episode, and it's actually along the same river where Eastman trained him in Aikido. They scout the area and Heath mentions a lot of blind spots, but they make some noise and nothing seems to come out, so it seems to be in the clear for now. Nothing too much is found at all, except for the fact that they come across this huge obnoxious sand pile. They question what happened here as they look around. Heath notices some empty shells in the sand while Tara pulls out a backpack, unleashing a horde of sand zombies upon them since, sadly, Heath didn't have enough time to warn her. The way we see the sand zombies emerge looks so crazy. Just the idea of them being casually trapped in that sand for so long, just waiting to ruin someone's day, is horribly hilarious to think about as you see the sand empty out one of the walker's mouth. Greg Nicotero actually elaborates on this during a Talking Dead interview, saying that one of the things that he's always wanted to do on the show was something involving walkers that are completely deprived of any liquid. It's as if they were just buried and all the moisture out of them is completely gone. These walkers looked much more mummified than any other zombies we've ever seen on The Walking Dead before. I was legitimately worried for Heath and Tara during this entire conflict. I was cringing on the end of my seat, in a good way, but hoping that they didn't get bit on one of their limbs as they tried to escape the slowly emerging zombies. And by the way, the slowness of the sand created an even greater illusion of suspense as Heath manages to crawl away first while Tara covers him, telling him to run. We watch Tara get completely overrun by zombies, calling out for Heath while he watches. From what we see, he seems to make a split-second decision to ditch Tara and save his own ass. My heart was completely broken watching him ditch Tara like that, but then the scene cut as the show tried to deceive their audience again. This show always tries to trick us left and right, making us double guess ourselves and whatnot, but needless to say, I was shocked. After that hell of a cliffhanger, we get brought to Tara being interrogated by the people of Oceanside. But real quick, we actually get to see a photo of what Oceanside used to look like before it became completely overgrown and camouflaged by the woods. So Natanya, the leader of the Oceanside, greets Tara, who is handcuffed inside her room. She introduces two of her soldiers, Kathy and Patrice, I believe, the one that Tara knocked out with the gun. Tara asks them about the bells that she's hearing, and Natanya tells her that they have 6 bells stationed nearby apparently and far away at different locations, around Oceanside along with an air horn. They are to redirect any walkers that are drawn by it, reducing zombie attacks to the community. Tara compliments this tactic, and yeah, that is pretty smart for like small amounts of walkers, but nothing like that is gonna stop No Way Out. But enough about Oceanside, all they want to know about is Tara. They ask her where she's from, and she lies about Alexandria and instead tells them about Heath, acting as if they've been on the road for years and that they used to work on a fishing boat. Patrice asks Tara what kind of fishing boat she used to maintain, to which she answers a larder. This actually comes around full circle later, but Patrice and Natanya can actually tell that Tara is completely lying at this moment, as to be expected. And I mean that it's to be expected that Tara would initially lie about Alexandria protecting her people. Not so expected that Oceanside caught on, but it's a cute little lie that they caught her in. Tara continues to tell them about the bridge that they were at, and that she actually fell off of it and ended up at the beach, fighting the current and eventually got ashore and passed out. She admits to acting like she was sleeping when Sydney brought her food, and said that she just wanted to follow her back to the camp for help. Kathy then asks her why she was sneaking around, and gets quite the classic response out of Tara.
It seemed like she had a camp, and I wanted to see if I could get any help.
Then why were you sneaking around?
I wanted to see if it was safe. Still not sure.
The fact that Tara knows where they are does put them at a great disadvantage. They are obviously scared of her running off and coming back and pillaging the whole place, as they don't know what her true intentions are or her origins. Netanya tells Tara that they normally kill anyone they find sneaking into their base, and that they would have normally killed her by now. She spared Patrice's life by not blowing her brains out, and Sydney has taken quite a liking to her, so they still haven't figured out what to do with her yet. Now, you wouldn't think of finding a female-only group randomly in a zombie apocalypse, and especially not one that is filled with such badass, ruthless killers. They are so savage to the point that they even have the little girl believing in it, to the point that she heavily insists on it herself. And I just can't stress that enough, because like Rachel is just so effed up, like goddamn, and I'm sure that the actor is all nice and everything, but holy Rachel, just don't kill Tara, don't spit on her, like come on, chill. Later that night, Kathy brings Tara to dinner with Netanya, Patrice, and Sydney. Netanya jokes about Tara not liking the salted fish that Sydney left for her on the beach, and formally introduces them to each other. Tara thanks her for saving her life back at the beach, even though Netanya may not agree. Sydney tries laughing it off, saying that her mother would agree, looking down at the shell bracelet that she is wearing, which I assume belongs to her. She explains how her mom showed her the way, and that she was trying to teach it to Rachel as well, but she hasn't had to kill yet. Tara asks Sydney if she's killed before, and Sydney just says that she's a very good shot. If you look in the back, you can actually notice Netanya listening in the entire time.
I'm a really good shot.
She comes over and cuts off the conversation by agreeing and telling Sydney that she is indeed a very good shot. Then begins dinner. After stuffing her face, Tara gets offered a new place at this new community. They can see the use in her and would rather have her join her than risk her running back to Alexandria and telling someone about her. Netanya tells her that she's a good person and a good fighter, and that she wants to put it to good use the best way she can, because in her eyes, if they can't convince Tara to join, they're just gonna kill her anyways. Netanya also tells Tara that they could bring Heath back here as well, saying that he would have a place to stay too. Tara seems confused as she questions the elephant in the room. Where are all the men? Netanya tells her after a short pause that they got in an altercation with a group in their past. It resulted in total extinction of their strongest fighters. This included not only all of the males above the age of 10, but also included other strong females who wanted to fight, such as Netanya's daughter, who is also Sydney's mother, since they're granddaughter and grandmother. After what happens, they decided to protect themselves no matter what. No matter who they cross, they kill anyone on sight. They have become so paranoid of negative interactions that they just do the only thing they can to know that they'll be saved. Netanya pleads with Tara, saying that she must think of them as monsters, but Tara can relate to them more than they realize. Now, we just don't know how many people they have killed after their altercation with the Saviors. It could have just been a handful, or it could have been dozens and dozens and dozens. Sydney has had quite the negative impact on this, but she's the only one to truly show it, as the rest of them have become completely hardened to the fact. Tara gets called out for lying about the fishing boat, as a larder is actually a room that people used to store food back before fridges were ever invented. She comes out and tells them about their community, just without mentioning the actual name of Alexandria. I assume that Tara would have had some sort of plan made up in her head to cover for her people in case she ran into strangers on the road, but she also seems really genuine during certain moments of this episode. It would have been awesome to have her ask Oceanside the 3 questions that Rick's group used to recruit people back at the prison. They were first introduced in the premiere of season 4 while Rick talks to that psycho woman out in the woods, and it occurs regularly until they meet Aaron, who brought them to Alexandria in the first place. For the people who don't remember, they first ask someone how many walkers they have killed, then how many people, and finally, why. I suppose they just told Tara the answer to that last question, but they could have worked it into the conversation somehow. It makes sense that Tara wouldn't feel like she's in the position to be the one asking questions, as she's practically kidnapped and obviously being interrogated. And on top of that, they're treating her about as nice as they can, asking if she needs to go to the bathroom, along with giving her a plate at their dinner while they question her. So Tara explains that to ensure their safety, her community actually conspired to eliminate a group of people at a satellite compound. She was really trying to sympathize with them by relating it to what they do to keep themselves safe, saying how that's true inspiration for it all, even though their victims were still horrible people. They killed those saviors because they wanted to stay alive, not because they wanted to make the world a better place. So she shows that she understands Oceanside and why they do what they do, although she makes a good counterpoint.
I get why you're doing it, but if you keep seeing everyone as an enemy, then enemies are all you're gonna find. Sooner or later, you're gonna need a friend.
Oceanside can't live like this forever, and I believe that that'll be shown by the time the season 7 finale hits, if not sooner. Tara is completely right in saying that if they see everyone as an enemy, that enemies are the only thing they're ever gonna find. Although Oceanside is confident that they can defend themselves, Tara's trying to warn them not to start a battle that they can't end, or one that they don't need to start in the first place. What if Oceanside also picked a fight with someone from a completely new group, hypothetically, that had the potential to wipe them completely out? It's understandable if you want to avoid any sort of conflict, but it's obviously fucked up and wrong to randomly kill everyone you just see to be 110% sure that they aren't a loose end. They can't get across enough that they don't want anyone finding Oceanside, but Tara keeps stressing that their community should potentially work together, and also how they need to reconsider their greeting tactics. Tanya is obviously completely stubborn when it comes down to it. She has already made more exceptions for Tara than she ever would have normally, so it seems as though she drew the last straw. While Tara was mentioning the satellite compound, Patrice realized that she was talking about the Saviors. You can notice her obviously stare at Tanya, who agrees that she's on the same page as they secretly plan a plot to kill her after all. They tell Tara that they're gonna send out scouts with her back to her community just to see what it's like, but in reality, Natanya's sending her out to her death, let's be real here. On Tara's way out of the community, she gets an awkward goodbye from Natanya as she grabs Tara's fist instead of bumping it. Once again, what the heck, guys? We get an overlapping cringe moment, as well as Tara also talks about the people and communities working together and how it'll be a revolution of the new world. As Tara leaves, she actually gets spit on by that girl Rachel, who is just a complete asshole. At first, when I saw the sneak peeks of the episode, I was hoping that they'd possibly go back to Alexandria with Tara, but screw that. She's tried killing Tara multiple times. She also spits on her way out. Rachel does this knowing that Tara was walking off to get killed, which makes it even more ironic how Tara flips her off saying, "See you later," because as we soon see here, Tara actually survives, and thank God. I'm not sure when the exact point that Tara caught on is, but I'd like to think that she never even believed in them whatsoever. It seems like she was definitely playing off as if she didn't know that Natanya was sending her out to her death, especially considering the way that she kept mentioning that she'd see them again with that cheery positive attitude. Elena Masterson does an amazing job acting as a character who's also acting, as Tara puts on this friendly front with them, just waiting for her first chance to get away. They take her back out into the woods just past one of the bells that Natanya mentioned to Tara earlier. She actually apologizes to Patrice for hitting her earlier and gets a snarky comment in response.
Hey, Beatrice. Sorry about the hit.
Yeah, you got lucky.
Yeah, I did.
They notice a walker tangled up in some branches, and Tara volunteers to take it out. She uses it as a chance to escape from her two assassins, who both could use some practice on their aim. I was honestly scared that Kathy was gonna stab Tara right in the back when they were crouched behind that tree looking at that walker, so I'm glad that she jumped up when she did to break the tension. We get more frantic scenes of Tara running through the woods being chased, as some clips were actually shown before in the trailers. This is an excellent example of how AMC loves to remix certain clips and teasers, and they always keep us guessing. I personally feel like this episode had the correct amount of action in it, and it was also spaced out fairly even throughout the entire episode. Tara trips down a hill and uses it to her advantage to get away from Kathy, one of her attackers, and then tries to sneak up on the other one, Patrice. She tackles her and they get into a scuffle, which ends with a gun being pointed at Tara. Patrice tells her that she knows about the Saviors and that they're the ones who killed the men in their group. She realizes how Tara thought that the Saviors were only in that satellite outpost they took out, but actually informs her that there are tons more. She tells Tara that all of her people are probably dead now, and that nothing can stop the Saviors. This all ties in with Tara completely being out of the loop, being completely unaware Denise is dead, saying she has a girlfriend she needs to get back to, thinking that the satellite station was the entirety of the Saviors, thinking they're all dead now and Negan's dead, getting that bobblehead for Denise that we'll talk about in a moment here. Like, just everything in this episode shows how far behind Tara really is. We learn of yet another community that has been terrorized by the Saviors. Although each community has had a slightly different relationship with them, their lives have all changed negatively one way or another, whether mentally or physically or whatever. Negan truly proves himself to be everywhere, as people fear the Saviors far and wide. You can see what kind of mental position the Saviors could leave a group in, considering the female Oceanside survivors and their paranoia of letting anyone go with the knowledge of their existence. Because of the trauma that they have suffered through watching their friends, families, and lovers all lined up and shot in the head, they are completely horrified of anyone finding out their existence due to the possibility of another negative conflict.
Every man, every boy over 10, they lined him up, shot him in the head. You see, we tried to fight, just like you. They won.
Sydney tackles Patrice right before she takes out Tara, once again giving her a diversion to escape. Sydney eventually catches up with her though, willing to help her out once more, but at a cost. She makes Tara swear that she won't tell anyone about Sydney's group, the Oceanside, bringing meaning to the title of the episode, Swear. She insists that Tara and her group didn't have to kill the saviors, but did anyways. She explains to Tara that people just do what they have to do to survive, paralleling what Heath told her in the beginning of the episode. Tara denies Sydney's claim of people not actually being evil, just like she denied Heath's claim, and she's saying that she's seen pure evil. Thinking back to how Tara was originally introduced to the show, she's probably remembering the governor right now and how he completely ruined Tara's family and their community. So after Tara agrees to swear, her and Sydney come to an understanding. Sydney gives her a backpack full of supplies and insists on showing her the way back to the bridge that she lost Heath at. When they get there, Sydney also insists to cover Tara while they cross the bridge. Or rather, as Tara crosses the bridge, as she won't be going with her, and she didn't escort her all the way here just to watch her die. She has risked everything at this point to be a good person and ensure Tara's safety, which ties into the entire reason why she even wants to help Tara. Back during the dinner scene, you could clearly see how guilty Sydney feels about the fact that she chose to murder multiple people for the sake of the Oceanside. By choosing to stand up and take action with Tara, it could possibly help mend the trauma that she feels from her previous murders. Tara asks her why she's different than all the others, to which she responds by asking the same thing back at her. They definitely have some sort of chemistry together, and the conversation was concluded by Tara's fist bump, which I loved. And in the words of King Ezekiel, Sydney is helping Tara because it makes her feel good.
But I think I can help, if you let me.
Why do you care?
Because it makes me feel good.
And that's aside from the fact that Tara comes off as a pretty awesome person in general. Somehow, with Sydney's skilled sniper support, Tara manages to push her way through the zombies, which is completely badass. This honestly reminds me of back in season 4 when Glenn is pushing through all the zombies back at that destroyed prison, eventually finding Tara in the first place. After Tara makes it to the other side of the bridge and reaches the spot where she got split up with Heath, we get a flashback to see what really happened between them. Heath completely redeems himself as he actually did come back to save Tara. He uses his last bullet to save her life, resulting in being completely surrounded. She yells out to him, telling him that she's coming to help and that they're in this together, to which he replies saying that he knows, but that she should just go because he wants her to be safe. This made me love Heath even more than I already did. Regardless of all the contemplating he did earlier, he wouldn't just abandon Tara, as he does everything he can to help her. Heath could have just left and saved himself, but I truly respect him for coming back with his last bullet and attempting to save Tara, as someone like Nicholas wouldn't have even thought twice about it. So Tara ends up getting pushed over by the walkers, which brings us full circle back to where we are now. Tara sees a zombie with dreads and anxiously runs over to it, revealing it not to be Heath, but some woman that we've never seen before. Thank God. I mean, sucks to be her, but at least it's not Heath, right? They literally did a similar thing to us recently in Fear the Walking Dead, so I find it pretty funny that they did it here too. By doing this though, she actually attracts quite a few walkers her way as she's forced to leave. Once she gets to the other side of the barricade on the bridge, she watches Sydney get caught by Kathy and Patrice, as we assume that she takes her back to Oceanside. Right before Tara leaves though, she notices Heath's glasses broken on the ground, along with their RV missing. This implies that Heath ran to the RV and got away, bringing at least some hope back into our hearts. Elena Masterson, who plays Tara, mentioned on Talking Dead that apparently Scott M. Gimple knows what the PPP means on the tag that Tara found, but he won't tell anyone. We then get to watch Tara's journey back to Alexandria, first walking through a field, then coming across a turned over boat in the middle of the road. This is the same boat that we actually see in the intro theme to the show, which also features the name of Tara's actor, Elena Masterson. She heads to a gift shop for the night for shelter and finds a bobblehead that reminds her of Denise. Getting all excited to get home, getting a new pair of sunglasses. Once she finally makes her way back to Alexandria, she gets greeted at the gates by Eugene, who completely turns her smile upside down as he breaks the bad news to her. We then immediately cut to Tara sitting in Denise's office holding the bobblehead that she was going to give her, and being accompanied by Rosita. Rosita actually begs her for any leads on guns or ammunition, but gets no answer out of her. This is a lot of weight on Tara's shoulders to be able to keep that promise that she made to Sydney to keep the community a secret, and I cannot wait for it eventually to come back full circle, as the show tends to do that a lot. This leads us to the end of the episode, and I don't know how you guys felt about it, but I loved every minute of it. From the moment the episode aired until the final scene, I was completely engaged, sitting on the edge of my seat, wanting more. A lot of fans weren't too excited for this episode as it doesn't have most of the main cast involved, but I've learned to accept that about certain episodes and appreciate it for what it is. Sometimes a story does need a full time slot to properly flush out, and as long as it is a meaningless filler, I don't mind at all. Everyone has a different opinion on bottle episodes and how they affect the show. If you want to hear more about them, be sure to check out one of my previous videos on the channel where I break them down. I'm also planning on doing a future video focusing on certain storytelling decisions in The Walking Dead, tying into the ratings of the current season right after my predictions video for next week. So look forward to those, but that's pretty much it, guys. I'm sorry this video went on a bit longer than I expected, but I guess I had quite a decent amount of crap to ramble about, so let me know how you guys feel about Tara's experience with Oceanside, along with her decisions to keep her promise with Sydney. When will Heath come back? I assume he'll be some sort of Morgan-esque character, popping into the story next season sometime, whenever it's convenient for the show. Anyways, that'll about wrap it up, guys. Thank you so much for watching, as I extremely appreciate it. And you know what? I would also definitely appreciate a possible like on the video if you've enjoyed it or agreed with anything I've said today. I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace out.